Alright, today I have for you some tips on how to get back in the round after you work your heel flap in a contrast color. So for tip number 1, I would like to re-emphasize when we begin our heel flap, we start on a wrong side row where we will be purling across. So again, to begin the heel flap, we'll complete a full round, and then we will come here to our back needle, and we will start with our contrast color and working across. I start with the garter edge, so I do 3 knits and then purl across. And what this will do is now, when we go back the other way, doing our slip pattern, we'll be slipping orange stitches. If you just start straight away with a right side row, your first row of slips will come across in your main color, which is blue here. Alright, so you work your whole heel flap as normal, and then your heel turn in the contrast color. And then here we would be at the point normally where we just continue working in the same direction down the edge here, picking up stitches. But instead, what we're going to do is break our contrast yarn. We won't be needing that anymore. And then we'll just skip this edge and come over here to where our main color is at the beginning of the round. So I've already tidied this little area up here. I stuck the tail down here in the sock and tried to get as many unsightly ends out of the way. So here we go, I'll grab my main color in the blue, and I'm going to just work across the front. So do what you need to do to tidy this first stitch. So from this point on, basically, we're going to just continue working in this direction all the way around the sock, picking up stitches, and then immediately starting into our gusset decreases on the next round. So since we skipped that first edge, what this is going to do is our gusset decrease sequence is going to begin with slip, slip, knit, our left leaning decrease, whereas for our typical sock heel we start with the right leaning decrease. Okay, so I worked across the front of my sock, all 30 stitches, and so we'll begin here by picking up the stitch in the corner. I'll use this needle. So follow that ladder across. It's actually 2 stitches down from the needle, so I have 1, 2, and grab the inside leg of each stitch there. And then we're going to knit that through the back loop. I check to make sure there's no split threads. There is one actually. Okay, now I'll set this needle to the side and I'll just keep using this one to pick up the stitches. So there's that loose stitch. We'll just pull that slack across on our next round. And out of the 3 strands I see here, I try to go for this middle one. And if you pick the same strand going the whole way up, it'll start to get tighter. And then when I stick my needle into it, and just pull slightly, it'll give you slack, and that way you know you're going into the same stitch the whole way up. Take a little stretch break. So I recently completed a pair of socks where I did throwing only. And I did it on a pair of 9-inch circulars. And I really got the hang of especially the knit stitch. But I will say, for picking up the stitches, I did do it continentally. I think picking up stitches when I'm throwing the yarn is incredibly difficult. Just by the nature of how you're holding it, when I'm doing continental, it's easy for me to have a slight bit of tension here on my left hand, keeping the work spread out taut, and so I can see quite clearly what the next stitch to pick up will be. So there we go, I have my first side done, and then I know just for my stitch count, I've done it so many times that I only need 3 of these stitches on this needle, and then it'll be even and match up with this one. And then once I've worked my gusset decreases, these back needles are just back to 20 stitches, so I have 20, 20, and 20 on each needle for a total of 60. Here we are, last stitch of orange. That one has the tail, so just let it get loose. It'll no sense in pulling on it now and snugging it up, because it'll just want to get loose again while we're doing this, and it'll just snug itself up on the next round, so just let that be. I'm going to continue with this needle, picking up the stitches. So same thing, first one looks a little funny. So out of the 3 strands here, 1, 2, 3, I always go for the middle. There we go. That's the middle one there. And after about 2 or 3, you'll see the middle stitch is visibly getting tighter because there's less slack. So when you go into it and pull slightly, it pulls right up. It's kind of a satisfying little feeling. What's nice too about knitting here continentally is I can just use my needle tip and work right at the tip, and it makes it easy to pull the yarn through. So I'm about to do my last stitch. What you want to look out for here is this last one. This bump is actually going to be in your main color because on our first row of the heel flap on the wrong side row, we start straight away with 3 knits, which create purl bumps on the front. And so I don't mind it. That's such a small detail. I'm sure I could figure out a way to make it so you don't have a contrast bump, but so all that to say, I've come here to the end before and counted and thought I had missed one, and then gone back just to see that, oh, actually the stitch I was looking for was in the main color. Okay, so now our corner stitch here. I like to let go of my working yarn when I am trying to get the legs here, so that my hand isn't all tense. So it looks like on this side it's the first stitch below the needle. Grab that. Oops, I think about the camera. there we are. So now I have all my stitches on 3 needles, and I'll just count them really quick. I have 30, but I must have dropped these two while I was pulling on the... Yep, so I have 30 here. And 30 here. So the way this works out for me, since I'm doing a 60 stitch sock, so my heel flap was 30 stitches wide, and then I worked at 32 stitches tall, to where I would pick up 16 stitches. And so it just works out that I have 30 each on the back needle, 20 on the front needle, and then so over the course of the next 20 rounds will be my gusset decreases. And so it works out nicely here. Even numbers for me, 60 stitch sock. Alright, so now I will work across the front, and as soon as I get to this edge over here where I started picking up stitches, I will begin my gusset decreases. So that's 20, 10 more. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, and our decreases start by working one and then a slip, slip, knit. Because, see, our first decrease is going to be on this side this time, to the left, slip, slip, knit. And then over here will be to the right, knit 2 together. So our decrease sequence is knit, let me count this again. Yep, so 10. So I'm going to work 1, which is our corner stitch, and then slip, slip, knit. And then we'll work to the other corner. So this is all standard from here on out. You'll just begin your decrease rounds on the slip, slip, knit side. That's the only slight difference. But if you're looking at your stitches after each row and just keeping track if you're on your decrease round or knit round, it's pretty easy to keep track. Now I might give that tail a little tug and then put it inside of the sock here. Get it out of my way. Yeah, so these are the first row of blue stitches that I picked up. So the only thing to remember is, regardless of wherever you start back in the round on your heel flap, you're going to start your decreases immediately on top of the stitches you picked up. So here I am at the last 3 stitches. We're going to do knit 2 together to the right, and then knit the last stitch. So there we are, we completed our round and we completed our first decrease round. Now we'll do a plain knit round, followed by a decrease, followed by a plain knit, until we're back to 60 stitches. Lastly, I'll show you that large stitch over here, just pulling the slack across. Oop. Sorry for the blur there. When I do these things, I like to have the knitting inches away from my glasses. I can't quite do that here with the camera shoved in my face. But you get the idea. I do this anytime I have something weird going on in my knitting. I'll just find the strange large stitch and start pulling on the leg, and then you'll see where the next stitch is, and then just follow it over. This one's a row up. I might have to wait to get it. Alright, so contrast color heel flap. I hope this was helpful. Have a good day.